And let's talk about my girl, Wendy Williams. How you doing? So it's been a minute since we talked about Wendy Williams, but it looked like we got some good news. Because the word on the curb is that a top neurologist has said that Miss Wendy, or she would say Wendy Williams, remember she would always overdo it with her W's, she doesn't have frontal temporal dementia. And I kind of felt like, duh, I never felt like she had frontal temporal dementia. But I will say there's clearly something going on with her mind. Her mind ain't all the way, perfect. Her mind a little bad. And I do think it's due to maybe the excessive drug use and her having like the passing out from excessive drinking where she would down a whole bottle and then she would pass out. Yeah, that does take its toll. Like alcohol abuse definitely takes its toll on your brain. But in regards to the whole frontal temporal situation, I was like, wait a minute, Bruce Willis has the same thing. And I mean, I don't know if there's never been any stories about Bruce Willis and whether or not he was like a heavy drinker or maybe that had anything to do with why his symptoms are what it is. But if he has the same if him and Wendy have the same diagnosis, and we've heard stories about the family talking about him and basically saying how his condition has worsened over the years, when now he's at a point where he can't even speak, then how can Wendy talk? I mean, I ain't saying she's speaking clear as day, because she do be sounding like she be having problems with little speech impediment. And yeah, her brain ain't 110%, but her condition is nothing like what we were hearing about Bruce Willis. So that's why I was like, that has to be a misdiagnosis. But apparently, according to TMZ, they had sources that spoke to them and said that, yeah, she completed a series of tests issued by a New York City-based medical doctor. The findings reportedly conflict with an earlier test that determined she suffers from frontal temporal dementia, which is a group of brain diseases that mainly affect the frontal and temporal lobes that are associated with personality, behavior, and language. And this is per Mayo Clinic. The newer results from the neurologist were sent to Williams's legal team late last month, per the outlet. TMZ reports that Williams' lawyers will file legal docs with the court, and they are hopeful the new results will influence a judge to terminate the former radio host guardianship. Now, in February 2024, the former Wendy Williams host team announced she was diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia as well as aphasia. Williams, who was also battling Graves' disease and lymphedema, underwent testing in 2023 after her memory started to fail. She began to lose words and act erratically, according to a press release. Well, this has me wondering, with her having Graves' disease, lymphedema, and all these other things that she has going on, what's the other thing that she actually has? Thyroid issues. With all that being said, I wonder if those symptoms have anything to do with maybe her brain or whatever the case is. I don't know if it's 110% only the frontal temporal thing, but I do believe because of her abuse of alcohol, because she went from killing, cutting, going cold turkey with the booger sugar to the alcohol. I do wonder if that had anything. I'm wondering if the alcohol stuff, because I've had blackout drunk situations in when I was younger, which is why I don't really drink that much anymore. I'll have an occasional beer, or if I even do have a cocktail, it's one. Like I will it down to just one drink now. Like I barely drink as it is, and that was because when I was in my 20s and everything, I was social. When I would go out to clubs and bars and stuff, I was a social drinker, and I would drink a lot. So I had to cut that off. One time I had a blackout situation. I was like, never again. And I learned my lesson with that. That kind of scared me straight. Because I told y'all, one time I blacked out drunk, ended up in a damn crack house. I don't know how I got there. Never again. So, um, they said she began to lose words and act erratically, according to a press release. Now, at the time of her diagnosis, the Dance with the Stars alum 61 was in an undisclosed treatment center where her family claims they were unable to reach her. So in 2022, Williams was placed under court-ordered guardianship after her bank, Wells Fargo, sent a letter to New York Supreme Court Judge Arlene Bluth requesting a hearing about her well-being. And I do believe that it was all due to, the stories about her son, while she was going through this stupid. First of all, Big Kev was out here laying low and spreading it wide with Sharina for over 15 years. And I do believe Wendy knew about it, but she was looking the other way. But once there was a bastard baby that popped up, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, now all of our shenanigans that I'm trying to sweep under the rug or whatever the case is, because you know, Kevin was more or less my security than my husband. And I do genuinely think that she cared about him. And I do believe like he used her and was getting whatever he was getting out of her because she was the breadwinner. She was his boss because she gave his bum ass a job. And so him out here bulldozing and doing managerial things and getting a piece of the pie, and he's living the life of luxury, but he couldn't keep his dick with one woman. Because quiet as it's kept, we also remember that when she was having issues conceiving a child, he was out there cheating because she was having all these miscarriages. Remember, she had 5 miscarriages before she had her miracle child with Lil Kev. And Lil Kev allegedly was no better because while his mama's out passed out in the room drinking away her woes, he's out here spending 100 grand on Uber Eats and spending up her money. And I understand that's your only child. And you want to give him the world, but he was taking advantage of situations too. So all these little things that was taking place around Wendy Williams, and yeah, we was living for her, having the gift of gab, the gossip. We was living for that. If it wasn't for somebody like Wendy Williams, I wouldn't be up here doing the things I'm doing. She is somebody who has been a mentor in my head that I've looked up to. Is Wendy Williams? Is also Howard Stern, and also my friend DJ Baker, who when I started out doing blogs and all the other stuff, he was the first openly homosexual black man that was doing a Breakfast Club type show called The New Dirty Show before the Breakfast Club was what it was. So it was him. He had a bunch of a plethora of different people that was coming in and out, but the most of the last team it was him. He had the first lady, which was Splash T, a trans rapper who was the first lady of the show, like they always have it. Then they had Seduction, the stripper porn star who was up there giving his side, and they did like celebrity news, pop culture, all those stuff. And he still does things on We Are You Radio, but I was the person they would always go to they will refer or use my stories to when they do the gossip segment of the show. So this was like independent radio long before it became what it became now, where like you go on social media and you listen to all these podcasts and things. He was revolutionary in that. So all of that other stuff coming up and seeing all these other people, that in a way it was like that shaped me into being the personality that I am. But of course, me putting my own spin on things is how to, because I ain't gonna try to sit out here and try to be like Wendy Williams. There could only be one Wendy. I do me how I do me. But I just felt like she never really had people in her corner that truly cared about her. And do I feel that okay, so where do we go with all of this? Now that we know that she doesn't have frontotemporal dementia and aphasia, where do we go from here? Does this mean that she gets out of this conservatorship, this guardianship, whatever the hell you want to call it? Do I think that she needs to be out of the guardianship? I do. I don't think she needs to be in this because the way they went about treating her, I think is absolutely deplorable, the way she's being treated. But does she need somebody who is going to be a financial advisor, make sure her money is copacetic, that people ain't coming in trying to rob her, because these people are definitely making a lot of money off her by keeping her in this this guardianship. Does she need somebody that's a financial advisor that keeps her on track with her coins? I definitely think that she needs that. I also think that she needs somebody to get her to her appointments, to make sure that she's taking her medications or whatever the case is, getting onto her doctor's appointments and being the healthy Wendy Williams that she is, that she needs to be. And she definitely needs somebody that keeps her on the right track. Do I think she need to be running these streets all alone with no kind of help? No. I don't think that mentally or whatever she is 110% where she could be out here on her own. She definitely needs somebody to be out here watching over her. But as far as like a prisoner in this whole situation, no. This whole thing needs to be abolished. Because look, y'all done freed Britney. You see how crazy her ass acting. And that's no shade. We've been watching these little videos with her where she out here posting these weird tweets and doing these little videos and speaking in these weird little voices. I'm like she got Tony from fucking The Shining. That doing these weird ass voices, British 1 minute. It was like, okay, this must be her personality. Is coming out having these conversations. But and for the most part, I definitely am feeling for Wendy. I definitely feel like there needs to be a change in how she's being treated in this whole guardianship, but she definitely needs people to be out here looking out for her and protected by these old vultures like that no good ass ex-husband who filed a $250 million lawsuit seeking to end her conservatorship. But I don't feel like he's trying to do all of that because he wants her out of conservatorship. He wants her out here being a show pony again so he can get that goddamn alimony that he feels like he was owed. And also, do I feel like we need to get Wendy back on TV? Because I know everybody, what, this mean he get back on TV? No, it don't. I do not feel like Wendy needs to be back on our TVs. I do feel like what needs to happen is Wendy needs to be, if they want her to get in the whole podcasting space, she definitely could do that and spew celebrity news and gossip. But I also feel like she can't do it alone. Like she don't have the ability to sit up there and do a show like I do a show and really bring y'all celebrity news and gossip and bring the funny and all that other stuff. The brain ain't 100 like what it was when she was in the heyday of the Wendy Williams show. She gonna need a co-host. So you need somebody that's going to have her up there to steer the conversation and keep her on track. Because the old Wendy that y'all want, she gone. So shout out to you, Wendy. I'm rooting for you to get, to get the freedom that you deserve. I hope you get the people that know what the people that's in your corner know what the hell they doing, and you're gonna be able to get out of this crazy situation that you're in. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story regarding the latest news on Wendy Williams? Apparently, they said that she don't have frontal temporal dementia, and so I wonder what Sabrina and them got to say about it. Because y'all been real quiet when it came to this, this news, especially coming from a top neurologist, um, and all that good stuff. So I definitely want to hear from y'all. Let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.